going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Game Time Discussions. I'm Cameron Selby here with Emory Cuzzy. We're doing bold predictions. This is going to be a little different, though. We didn't do any kind of prep. We didn't do any kind of collaboration. This is 4 predictions by me, 4 predictions by M, and we are hearing them for the first time live with
now.
On recording, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting. We're going to high five if we have the same one, but they're ones that are out there. They're different from consensus. Obviously, when you're getting bold, you are not going to do something that is chalky because that is lame, that is not fun, and that is not what we are about. So we're going to get right into it.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I was going to say I'm super excited about this video because like last night I was thinking about it, and like most of the videos that we do, we like talk about and we're like, hey, let's, the only one that we like kind of ad lib is best ball, but we've done it so much that it's not really, we've done 200 to 500 draft. Like if you think of our whole time, it's almost close to like 700 probably drafts. And so it's like, this is something where we have not talked about it. We know nothing and we just prepared it ourselves. So it's super exciting. And I'm going to let Cam go first.
All right. Yeah. Essentially my first one in the last 10 seasons, the most times a running back rushed for 200 yards in a season is 5 times.
2,000.
What?
2,000 yards?
200.
200.
200 yards in a game.
Oh, in a game. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in a game, 200 yards in a season was done 5 times, and it was by 3 players in 2020. So obviously Derrick Henry was King Henry that year. He did it 3 times. Jonathan Taylor and Dalvin Cook. Other than that, it was basically just one person, but less than 5 times. This year, I'm going to say 6 people rush for 200 plus yards.
Wow.
And I'm going to nominate who they are.
Okay.
Most of them will be setting career highs or being the first time that they do it. Jonathan Taylor is the only guy on this list that has actually done it before. He did it 253 yards in 2020, that year that I spoke with. I'm going to say Travis Etienne.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
He is going to be a workhorse this year, and I am going to say that he is going to have a game where he has a couple of breakaway runs and he has 200 yards. Bijan, not that crazy. Kyron Williams.
Okay.
Kenneth Walker.
Wow.
And Christian McCaffrey. Now, I know Christian McCaffrey, that's lame. That's not, he's 101. He's never in his entire career run for more than 200 yards.
Interesting.
And he will do that this year.
Okay.
So six players, like I said, will run for 200 plus yards. This is going to be an old school year where all the top RBs pay off. We're going to have ceiling games. We're going to have ceiling performances. That is my bold prediction. 6 running backs this year will run for 200 plus yards.
Okay. No, I don't hate it. I think that's a pretty cool prediction. I think that, with our thinking of, how running backs are kind of set up this year, I know you picked the ones that you decided. I could see other guys doing it, of course.
Yeah.
Breece Hall.
We omitted some guys.
Yeah, Breece Hall, Isaiah Pacheco.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, well, yes, of course. So all of those guys included, and the fact that they don't have true backups that are going to steal these touches, I think it makes sense.
And it's also, I wish I would have done somebody really silly, because there's a couple guys that I researched all the way back to 14 for this, last 10 seasons. You got Jonas Gray, you got Thomas Rawls,
right?
You got Isaiah Crowell, you got Jay Ajayi 3 times in 1 year.
What team?
Philly? Yeah, during the Super Bowl year. Like, there's gonna be a weird guy. I'm not gonna get all 6 right, even if
Javonte Williams.
I just wish I would have done somebody really, really weird. But I'm just trying to be conservative in my true first bold prediction of this video.
Fair enough. All right, so I guess I'm up.
Okay.
So my bold prediction, and it's going to create controversy because I am from Texas, but I have Jacksonville winning the AFC South and the Texans missing the playoff at 9-8.
Okay.
Jacksonville to win the AFC South is plus 275, currently projected at the over 8.5 at minus 115. It's all dependent on Trevor Lawrence, of course. I mean, he had a 56.1 QBR, which was 17th last year. That's not good enough. But I want to put this into perspective. 8-3 start. We've talked about that a lot. 0-5 into the season. The prior year, they finished 5-0 to end the season. Mm-hmm. And that's the year that they went to the playoffs. They played against the Chargers and big comeback. Right. So we know that they have capabilities of doing it. So I think Jacksonville wins the AFC South. The Texans missed the playoffs is plus 190.
Mm.
They are looking at over 9.5 at minus 140, but they have the fourth toughest strength of schedule. And in my opinion, and the no give me games, truly, weeks 1 through 13, and this doesn't include their own division. So you don't get Indy, you don't get Jacksonville. They're going to play them twice anyways. Tennessee, they're going to play them twice anyways. They have to play Chicago, Buffalo, at Green Bay, at the Jets, Detroit, at Dallas. And then to end the year, we've talked about this multiple times. Miami at home, at Kansas City, Baltimore, all within 10 days.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was going to bring up. It was just like they're one of the people that have the 3 games in 10 days, and I think that probably benefits them the least out of anybody that has to do that.
Well, there's also another stat that I love to see. 7 playoff teams from last season they are going to play this year. They're going to play 7 different playoff teams this year that made the playoffs last year. The prior year, when they went 10-7 and had, this last year, they had 3. Those 3 were Tampa Bay, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. Our first 3 out, if you go watch our video on playoff regression. And then my other big thing is the depth in the AFC. If they do not win the AFC South, then Jacksonville does. You have the depth of Baltimore, Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, Miami, New York Jets, Cleveland, Indy, Jacksonville, the Chargers, and Pittsburgh, all vying for the wild card spots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take the fact that they're not, and of course, I could be very wrong and they could win 12 games, but at a total bet of $987.50 at a $100 bet, it doesn't seem too bad to me.
Yeah, I really like that one. The thing is, football is so random.
Yes.
It's against the grain, and it does things against the public consensus. Houston had the lowest win total of any team last year, and they surprised. And now they're one of the consensus. No one believes in any other team in that division, even though all 3 of them got better. Even we don't believe in Tennessee. They're really
better,
nice in the offseason. We just think that it's kind of a year away. And, we didn't love and it's really solely dependent on how much Will Levis can rise. But it's a sneaky tough division. And I just don't love the public of Houston is a Super Bowl contender. And, they won the offseason to us. Like, they had the best offseason. And yet we still, still are kind of concerned about him. And, obviously I don't have that one on my bold predictions, but I do like that. And it's going to be interesting once we do our final predictions, how it all shakes out and what we actually place them, because I'm really starting to grow more and more that somebody else is possibly going to, surpass them in the division this year. And again, that is not public, favoritism or kind of public opinion. But yeah, that's a really nice one.
All right. And then Europe.
All right. So second one. All right. So only 2 receivers in NFL history have caught 20 touchdowns. Can you name who they are?
Randy Moss, Jerry Rice.
Yeah. So 1987, Jerry Rice did it in 12 games.
Yep.
And then Randy Moss broke the touchdown record in 2007. Obviously, their perfect season that ended not perfectly.
Right.
This year, a wide receiver will join them in this club of having 20 touchdowns. However, they will be the first one to do it with not only 100 receptions, but also 1,500 yards.
Okay.
And that guy is Jamar Chase.
I think we're gonna talk about something later about Jamar Chase. I'll get onto that. So on my side.
And again, there's this one wouldn't be as obviously, it's one of it'll be the first ever to do so. I think Randy Moss had 98 receptions, and then Jerry Rice obviously played 12 games. He was on pace to succeed both of those numbers, but nobody's done it with 100 receptions in a season and also 20 touchdowns, and also nobody's ever done it with 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns. He's going to have over 100, over 1,500, and 20 touchdowns.
Okay, so we have a similar pick, but I'm not going to talk about it till later because that is my last pick. It is worth a lot of money.
All right.
So, but yes, I completely agree. It's just Joe Burrow's back. They weren't 9-8 last year without him, and they're going to be one of the most proficient offenses in football, and Jamar Chase is the reason. And I love what they're doing with him, moving him into the slot and moving him around to get him the ball. Targets, he will get his 15 targets a game, which is going to be insanity.
Yeah, so again, as a rookie, he had 13 touchdowns, which was incredible. And, we were high on him that year, and
Hmm.
it was great. Second year, he had 9 in 12 games. Obviously, he got hurt. I think it was a hip injury, right?
Yes.
Missed 5 games, and so obviously didn't break 10. And then last year, obviously, Joe Burrow went down early in the season, so he only had 7. But again, he's been a high volume touchdown guy. He had 20 touchdowns and 20 plus touchdowns in Joe Burrow's historical season,
Right.
their national championship year. And I say he's the perfect guy to nominate for this bowl prediction.
Perfect. I love it. Okay, so next on my list, I have the New Orleans Saints will have a top 3 pick in the NFL draft. So they're projected right now by ESPN to be 10th. Okay, so truly, it's a big plummet from 10 to 3. I know
Right.
that doesn't seem that big, but that's a huge difference when you have a team that has a 7.5 win versus a 4.5 in the Carolina Panthers or the New England Patriots. Currently projected to be 10th by ESPN. I want to very much so emphasize the fact of the game is won in the trenches. Okay? PFF ranked them 32nd on offensive line, and I completely agree. I think their offensive line is awful, and they added Fuaga, and I love him, and it does not matter. They're still awful. So 32nd offensive line. Defensive line is 24th. Football's won in the trenches. They have one receiver, to me, and PFF ranked them as the 24th receiving core, and then they have one big player on the
Only
opposite side.
24th? I
24th.
feel like it would be worse than that.
I agree. That's what I thought. Age is a factor, is how I look at it. Age is a factor on defense. Cameron Jordan is 35 years old.
Yep.
Demario Davis is 35 years old. Tyrann Mathieu is 32 years old. I think that all of those guys are going to take a dip. And they should. Truly, they have been amazing for as long as they have. They should probably take a dip sooner or later, right?
And then also just to mention, Marshawn Lattimore is 28 now,
but
he
so
was
many
also
injuries.
in trade talks all offseason, and would he be moved? So he's getting up there and moving out of his prime as well.
Yes. And then my other thing is Dennis Allen, as a defensive coordinator, has been amazing. Amazing defensive coordinator, taking the Saints 13 and 3 years, whatever. As a head coach, though, he is 24 and 46. 7 and 10 in 2022 and 9 and 8 this last year. The reason that this kind of falls apart, if you think about it, is because of the fact that they play in the worst division in football. But everybody in that division got better, except for maybe Tampa Bay, but they were already better than New Orleans, in my opinion.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me if I saw New Orleans get 4 wins, and be the top 3 pick. I did not want to put them at the number 1 overall pick. I don't think that's reasonable. Top 3, though, makes a lot of sense in my opinion. And right now, being projected 10th, I think they're in a world of downpour.
Yeah,
So.
and we talked about all offseason. And by the way, great prediction. I love that. We talked all offseason that we just think that New Orleans is going to take a step back. But the problem is their schedule is so easy that it's hard to just see them plummet.
Right.
More has to go wrong in addition to the stats that you just read off, and all of that makes sense. It's a great one. On top of that, I can't get it out of my head the last game of the season where Dennis Allen is like, let's take a knee, and the players aren't listening to him, and are like, we're gonna do a fake knee, run for a touchdown, and the players supported that. That's never good when the coach and the players are not on the same team. Obviously, Jameis Winston is no longer on the team, probably because of that. But also, I just think there's a disconnect. I think he is one of the easiest bets to be fired midseason. And yeah, if they get off to a rough start and he is gone midseason, I just think it could just be they're going to be sellers at the deadline. All of these guys that you mentioned, Demario Davis, I mentioned Marshawn Lattimore, but Tyrann Mathieu, and then obviously Cam Jordan, be sellers to teams that are like, we need one more piece
Right.
for a great veteran, because I like all of those players, but again, they're just kind of becoming of age. Yeah, that's a really nice one.
Thanks. All right, you're up.
All right. So this one is going to, we've been kind of preaching them all off season, and it's not going to be that crazy, especially from you. This is going to be a rookie year for the ages for Caleb Williams. The Chicago Bears single season passing yard record is 3,838 yards by Eric Kramer, and also 29 touchdowns by Eric Kramer. Caleb Williams is going to surpass that in his rookie season. In addition to that, did you know that no number one overall pick quarterback in NFL history has won a playoff game as a rookie?
I did not know that.
He will be the first to do it.
Agreed.
So not only is he going to break single season passing yard records for a 100+ year franchise in the Chicago Bears, he's also going to be the first player in NFL history to be a quarterback picked first overall and win a playoff game in his rookie year.
Wow. No, I love that. I think that that's very accurate. One thing that I will say, of course, we have the fact that Caleb Williams, we love Caleb Williams. We think he's great. He was picked first overall, but the team was ninth overall.
Mm-hmm.
So they're better put together than a lot of the teams getting the first overall pick. You look at Carolina last year, things like that. So that obviously does not change the fact that he was the first overall pick and he's going to a team, but it does help him in the fact that they were put together, and then they brought in DeAndre Swift. They brought in Keenan Allen. They drafted Rome. It's just they want him to succeed, and I think that he will.
Yeah,
so I
and
completely
for
agree.
those, if there is pushback, again, number one pick to win a playoff game in the same season. Obviously, CJ Stroud just had a great season, won a playoff game the year before. Brock Purdy won a
Right.
playoff game as a rookie. This is first overall pick as a quarterback to win a playoff game. Has never been done before.
Joe Burrow, Trevor
Never.
Lawrence, like these guys that,
Yep.
So no, I completely agree. I think it's a great pick. My next pick is the New York Jets will win the AFC East, and Sauce Gardner is Defensive Player of the Year. And so Jets to win the East is plus 180. PF ranked them the fifth offensive line, which I found debatable, but that's okay because they did find some veterans. I mean, they are better than they were last year, but their defensive line, linebackers, and DBs are all the number one ranked units for their positions. Jesus, it's crazy. So basically, in my opinion, it comes down to if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy. And if he's healthy, I think that, they're not going to 7 wins last season with 15.8 points per game, the fourth lowest. There's no way they have that. I think they're more of like a 21, 22 point per game type of team. With those numbers and that defense, they don't have to do much, Their defense is going to hold people under 17 points every game. So I think they win the AFC East. And I know that there's 2 other teams in the East, and they're not the favorites by any means. I know that Buffalo's the favorites. Miami's also there, but Miami, and we talked about Miami and Buffalo before on other shows, schedule matters. They're not going to be able to do it with their schedule as much, if you ask me, because they do have to play in the cold at the end of the year a couple times. And I'm just more confident in I'm a defensive guy. I love defense, and so I'm all about the fact that this is how, you win games.
Yeah. I like that prediction. Essentially, there is no division in the entire NFL that is more wide open than the AFC East.
Yep.
And obviously, it's only 3 teams. It is not the one that we're used to, the New England Patriots. They will be at in the cellar. But yeah, all 3 of the teams can make a case, but the Jets on paper make the most sense to just hedge your bet. On top of that, they could start out really, really strong. Let me pull up their schedule really quick because it is very easy at the beginning of the season. Essentially, they start the year going to San Francisco. That is rough. They're a dog. They're projected to lose. However, San Fran's the one team right now that has the biggest injury bug.
Right.
On top of that, 2 of their biggest offensive stars are holding out. Weird vibes. So if they did sneak a win in not a neutral, but a fair weather game,
Wouldn't
I'm
be
not
that
shocked.
surprised, yeah.
But then after that, Tennessee, New England, Denver, Minnesota.
Beautiful.
So they could, at worst, I don't expect them to be worse than 4-1. And if they did, that'd be shocking. And they could very well be 5-0 going into a Monday night game at home against Buffalo.
Yeah.
And so if they start out strong, like we project them to, like they're just going to run away with this division, especially when you see the tough schedule Miami has to end the season. And then Buffalo, obviously, this is their worst team in a long time. In the Josh Allen era, other than their rookie year,
right?
His rookie year, it's really rough for Buffalo right now, and they really just it's going to be an all-time carry job if Buffalo is to repeat kind of the success we've seen him the last couple seasons. Yeah, that's a really strong one. And then also I was going to look up the
I have him.
okay.
The odds.
Yeah.
Sauce Gardner is to be defensive player of the year. He's plus 6,000.
Yep.
He is one.
That's
So he would be the first DB since 2019. The last one was Stephon Gilmore. It would be one of 4 since the year 2000. That includes Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, and Bob Sanders. Okay, so yeah, I know. Just add him to it, right? His PFF grades in 2022, he was first out of 118 with a 87.9 at the position, and then in 23 he was third with an 88.6. He actually got better and went down in position wise. He's never allowed a touchdown. Never. Not once. In his 3-year career, never went one touchdown. Lowest yards per cover snap at 0.44. So every route that they run, he has given up 0.44 per passing down thrown in his way. Sorry, go ahead.
No, quick tidbit. I know y'all have seen the top 100 players list. We don't listen to it because it is
Aaron
the
Rodgers
worst.
was on it.
Yes, and that wasn't even what I was going to bring up.
Go.
Everybody's talking about Patrick Mahomes being the 4th best player, and that's the stupidest thing, which it is, because it is the dumbest thing ever. However, the dumbest thing that I saw on that list, by far, was DaRon Bland being ranked above Sauce Gardner. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And
no,
DaRon Bland, record-breaking season. Hats off to him. He did great, especially filling in for Trayvon Diggs, who went down in week 2. But yeah, that was literally the most ridiculous thing.
That's so ridiculous. So he's also third in forced incompletion rate at 21.1%. So drop balls don't count. Bad passes don't count. This is him literally 1 out of 5 of the times he is forcing the ball out of the receiver's hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say this. The Jets have not won the division since 2022, and they were 9-7 that year. First off, that's crazy. 2002, not 2022.
Yeah.
2002. I apologize. They haven't won the division since 2002. With that being said, it's really hard to win Defensive Player of the Year with a losing schedule. They've been 7-10, 7-10, and 4-13 since he got there. They've been 3rd, 4th, and 4th in the division. With that, all of those things, you can't have a Defensive Player of the Year. They're normally on winning teams. Well, guess what? The Jets are going to win the AFC East, and that allows Sauce Gardner, because it has to go together, allows Sauce Gardner to be Defensive Player of the Year, at least in the conversation. And there are other guys, of course, that are exciting that are going to get sacks. But Sauce Gardner is the most consistent defensive football player. He's probably my favorite, or let's not say favorite. That's not even fair for him, because he is, to me, the most well put together defensive player in the NFL. He probably should be considered the best football player, especially since Aaron Donald is gone.
Right. So yeah, I mean, the plus 6,000 is way too long for somebody that's as good as him.
I'm telling you.
The problem is with DBs is, especially in today's game, where not only is defensive production limited in terms of statistics, but it's also, if you're being covered well, quarterbacks just aren't going to throw it to you.
Right.
So like Champ Bailey, for example, I brought up I didn't bring it up, but I saw the 2006 season where he didn't allow a touchdown, 10 interceptions, just less than 500 yards on the season. It was an incredible year, and he still didn't win Defensive Player of the Year. And it's mainly because, somebody that had a lot of sacks got it. So basically, sacks are the sexy thing for Defensive Player awards, and that's why he is so wide. Like you said with the odds, again, there's 20 players that are higher than him, and that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, if he can put together the numbers, I completely see that 100%. It's just, I think because it's just so numbers driven, and DaRon Bland breaking the single season interception record, or pick six record rather,
right?
And then Trayvon Diggs the season before breaking franchise records for 11. I think it was 11 interceptions. Neither of them winning the Defensive Player of the Year. So what does Sauce Gardner need to do to win that?
So in my opinion, like, you have to look at it like they're also, Dallas was a kind of like a carnival that year too. They were giving up, 20 plus points a game, where the Jets are going to be giving up nothing. They could shut people out in the NFL. That's unheard of, and they could do it. That's how good they are at football. And he is the pivotal reason that they do stuff like that.
Right.
And so I think that needs to be taken into account. It might not. And of course, that's why he's plus 6,000. But at the end of the day, I'm going to bet on the fact that he's probably the best defensive football player in the NFL right now, or one of. And he has the case, and he built it, because no touchdown. If he continues what he's done, then I don't see how. And they go, say, 10 wins, 11 wins, and win the division. I don't see how he's not top 3 in the at the least.
Right. Yeah, and even as just like a 2-pick parlay, like that is
17,000. $17,100. It's crazy.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get into our final ones and get out of here. This one, like I said, is against the grain of what we've said. Dallas has gone 3 straight years with 12 wins, and they're the only team to do that and not make the conference championship. I will say that they will disappoint. They will go into week 17 9-6.
Oh wow.
And lose to Philly to allow them to win the division, be the 20th straight year that somebody has not repeated. And also, in a win or go home game at home, they will lose to the Washington Commanders, miss the playoffs, and that will be the last game that you see with Dak Prescott as a Cowboy.
Yeah. Well, either way, I think Dak it's his last year. But the fact that we just picked against both Texas teams is a little crazy. And Cam is he's a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, so this takes a lot. But at the same time, at the same time, like, they haven't done anything to help themselves at all since the last season ended. They didn't get any pickups in free agency. Eric Kendricks does not count, guys. He's old, and of course, it makes sense because he's with Mark Zimmer, but that's it. And then you look at what they did in the draft. Apparently Tyler Guyton's been really good in camp. So hopefully, I also just believe in the Dallas's offensive line coaches, because they're damn good at what they do, and I'm just going to allow that to be what it is. But we didn't necessarily agree with those picks. And then since then, all they've done is piss everybody off. CeeDee Lamb, this whole thing with him. You've got Dak and them asking him to take a pay cut. That didn't work out. It's just, they have to pay everybody, right? But they can't pay everybody, and Jerry's not going to pay everybody. So
essentially, if what Dallas has done this offseason is not an F, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you are a team that were a contender.
Yeah.
Did not sign anybody. Let a lot of your role players walk. Your own DC go within division. You added back, now just a guy running back in Zeke, and then, like you said, Eric Kendricks, who had a terrible year last year with the Chargers. And it's just like, this is the cooking of a team set up for disappointment. And again, we've said before, the final 2 spots, because we were giving one to Chicago, obviously based on my first prediction, there is Green Bay, Dallas, and the Los Angeles Rams. One of them will miss the playoffs. And we've been going back and forth. We even did our playoff risk video, and Dallas was above because we did tiebreakers and stuff like that, and they were allegedly above. I don't believe. I'm done with it. The only solace to the season is that their tough games are at home.
Right.
But it's not a home field that just you have a huge advantage. It was built to be a neutral site stadium. I've been there multiple times, and I'm surrounded by crowds of the away team, whether that be Buffalo, the Raiders, whoever it was. And it's just like, why are y'all all here? Well, it's because Dallas has 100,000 fans, or 100,000 seats, and you're trying to fill them all rather than fill them all with Cowboys players or fans.
No, I agree.
And so I don't even think that having those guys or teams there, having Detroit there, I don't think that they're going to beat Detroit at home. I don't think they're going to beat Houston at home. I don't think they're going to beat any of these tough Baltimore, another one. I think they're going to have a losing record at home, and that's what's going to be the detriment to them. And they're going to set themselves up to where they are going to be viable for a wild card. And Dan Quinn is going to be the reason they missed the playoffs. It's going to be the end of Dak. It's going to be the end of Mike McCarthy. And they're going to go into a very, very sad and dark place. And we are going to have to do daily checks on Steiger Morris, our first intern.
Yeah, because he's gonna be having a hard time, man. I want to. So I agree that that would make them 9-8, and right now we've been talking about how they're either 10 or 11 win teams, 10 or 11 win team, and I think that personally, I'm probably still at the 10-point win game, but that's one game difference. Like any week, you could lose to a team that you're not supposed to, and all of a sudden you're.
And that team is Washington.
Yep.
Like I said, Washington is a team that I've talked about all offseason, where that they're a really nice bet to win the division on top of. And again, that's not what we were predicting, but we're saying that somebody shouldn't be 9-1 when they're ascending, and it's a division that has so much interchanging at the top position. But like I said, Dallas has done nothing. They are going to get worse. They have done nothing to tell you otherwise. The vibes are weird. It's all, and I just think it's just set up to where there's going to be so much disappointment, and they're going to be. I know it's a long time ago, but basically 2003 when Arizona Cardinals were vying for the number 1 pick in the draft, and Minnesota started out, I think it was 10-1, and they missed the playoffs because at the very last play of the season, Josh McCown threw it to Dave Boston in the back of the end zone, and Minnesota was going home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there's been a bigger disappointment since, and I think Dallas this year is going to be that for the NFL.
All right. So my final one, we talked about Jamar Chase earlier and how it relates to him. I have Jamar Chase will achieve the Triple Crown. Jamar Chase will have the most receptions, receiving yards, and receiving touchdowns this year out of any player. Currently, 4th in betting to have the most receiving yards at plus 850. Okay. 3rd in betting to have the most receiving touchdowns at plus 1,000. And 3rd in betting to have the most receptions at plus 1,000. If you made a full bet on all of those things, that would come out to $114,000. If you on $100 bet, that's a lot of money. But in my opinion, it's definitely a thing that's possible if Joe Burrow is healthy the whole season. During the time that Joe Burrow was healthy last year, weeks 1 through 11, I'm not going to include week 11 because that was Baltimore, and that was when he got injured before even halftime. He was 3rd in receptions at 69, 7th in yards, and 9th in touchdowns. Now, I'll tell you what, Jamar Chase is going to elevate that in a different way. But without Joe, he was 27th in receptions, 30th in yards, and 33rd in touchdowns. In his 3 seasons with Joe, he's got 6.5 receptions per game, 91.5 yards basically per game, and then 3/4 of a touchdown. Those numbers are not going to be good enough to do this, but get ready because now is the time that Jamar Chase becomes the wide receiver 1 in all of football. This is the year. He has 107.8%, 107.8 passer rating when targeted. And there's no way to me that last year during those games, he had 99 targets in the first 10 weeks. 99 targets in 10 weeks. It's 11 targets a game. And I have because there was a bye week. Sorry. So 9 games. I have no feeling that he can't surpass that even because in those games, and I have the stats here because I had to make sure that I had them right. Whoops. He had a game with 19 targets. He had a game with 15 targets. He had a game with 13 and a game with 12. I feel like this is the year where you see Jamar Chase at 12.5 targets a game and he catches 70% of that, which is almost 8.5 catches a game. And
that one, I know who's going to be the thumbnail for this video.
Yes, absolutely.
But I mean,
Jamar Chase.
You look at the opportunity because again, Joe Mixon has had 300 plus opportunities this season since Joe Burrow's been there. Tyler Boyd, 98 targets, 82, 94, 110, 148.
Yes.
That's a lot of targets gone, and then it's just the T. Higgins and Jamar Chase show. If Joe Burrow's healthy, that is exactly why I made my bold prediction of breaking the, or not breaking the record, but joining the 20 touchdown club, but being the first to do so with 100 receptions and 1,500 yards. Boy, what would that payout be if we also added that onto the lay?
Oh man.
We're high on him. He is our most exposed first round pick in terms of best ball. We are going to be fighting tooth and nail to be bidding on him in our fantasy draft, and we'll see who ends up with him. But I bet you it'll be one of us because we are both very, very high on Jamar Chase and Cincinnati in general, and I'm completely on board with that.
So I think one thing too is like you look at the other receivers because I think he will be the number one receiver in football overall. Well, Tyreek Hill has talked about possibly retiring.
Yep.
So, okay. So he's basically, in my opinion, he's kind of on his way out. He's still very good. Don't get me wrong. CD has team issues.
Yeah.
As we all know. We don't even have to go into that. JJ has the bad quarterback issues. Like Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy, like you don't know who's going to play first off. Second off, you don't know if they're going to be that good. I think Sam Darnold's actually really good at football, and I think he starts most of the year. And then I don't think Amon-Ra is just there yet, if that makes sense.
Well, he also has too much competition for targets because Jahmyr Gibbs is not going to lead the league in rushing attempts, but
Right.
he is going to be 15 plus touchdown upside. Sam Laporta is tight end one on a lot of platforms because of the season he just had. Everybody's high on Jameson Williams, so by default, you don't have enough opportunity to be the triple crown,
right?
Or even leading in most of those categories. If there's any, it's probably receptions,
right?
But it's just because of his high volume to catch targets, more so than him getting 15 targets a game, which is normally what's warranted to be that high up there. When we saw Cooper Kupp and he was 12 to 15 targets every week, and he caught 11 of them, and then the 100 plus yards and touchdowns and stuff like that. I just don't see him doing that. And outside of the first round, there's no one that is even in the running to possibly be the triple crown. It's really just Tyreek, Chase, and CD. And Tyreek, once again, bad into the year for Tua. It's a lot of cold weather games. It's tough opponents. And on top of that, Tyreek Hill is 30. And, we'll just kind of see what happens. And then CD Lamb, just weird vibes. That's why my bold prediction, number 4, is the way it is.
Right.
Yeah, Jamar Chase, triple crown winner. Can't be more supportive of it than I am.
Super excited about him. I'm glad we actually picked a bunch that we agreed with because, like, I mean, the only one that I'm like, okay, Dallas, I don't know that I think they missed the playoffs, but I could see it happening because they could implode anytime. But yeah, so that's the only one maybe I didn't agree with, but all the other ones, I'm glad we all.
And again, that one will come back to tiebreakers and stuff like that because a 9-8 team to make the playoffs in the NFC is completely still in
reasonable,
the cards,
right?
But again, I'm trying to be fun. I'm trying to be different, and boo what they did. Like, there's nothing that they've done that makes me supportive of them to go further or even repeat what they just have done
for sure
in terms of the regular season. And like I said, all their tough games are at home. That doesn't mean as much to me than it does to other teams. That if they were in Kansas City, all the tough games are at home. That's what propels Kansas City to 14 wins. But with Dallas, that just means that a lot of disappointment, a lot of disappointed fans.
Well, we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. This was a very interesting and fun video for us. We're gonna try to do some more of these where we just kind of have no recollection of the other person's ideas and then we put them out there. I enjoyed listening to Cam coming up with some crazy ones like 6 running backs going over 200 yards. I didn't even think of anything like that. So that was cool. But we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Please go like, comment, subscribe, comment what y'all's biggest bold prediction is, because there are obviously thousands across the internet and Twitter, but all of the ones we tried to do were different than the ones that we're seeing everywhere else. I think that y'all should get in the comments and send us something that's, fun and interesting that we obviously will have a very, very bad percentage of actually happening, but it's a fun idea that you can paint the picture for, basically.
Right. I mean, yeah, again, we can't thank you guys enough for tuning in, but with these, we're not going to bat 1,000, but we're saying things that have data to back it up or vibes to back it up. And, it's not that crazy, but it's against what everybody's thinking. and that's what a bold prediction is supposed to be. Um, so yeah, we want to hear what you guys think in terms of our predictions. Is it crazy? Is it too crazy? And then also, what is your bold prediction? What is the biggest thing that you think is going to happen that is just against the grain? Pick a player, pick a team. It doesn't matter. We try to stay away from fantasy um, for these, just because I wrote down one or two, and then we're like, oh, well, we're not doing fantasy, so let me start over. But yeah, I mean, records are meant to be broken. Vibes and going against the grain is what football is all about. It's a league of parity. It's going to be different for a lot of people. There are upsets all the time. So yeah, we want to hear what you guys think. Please like, comment, subscribe. Check out all the videos we have. We live stream every Wednesday for best ball, and then we are going to be live streaming every Sunday morning during the season. Very, very excited to start doing that. This is our first year, obviously. Doing this podcast and doing this, but we've been doing this behind the scenes for years, and it's just putting it on the camera, getting comfortable with it. It's all that fun stuff.
Right. Also, we get in the Discord. We are going to start really ramping up the
Yes.
Discord because we're going to have DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports, starting up when football season starts, where we give lines and talk through lines and talk about what our favorite plays of the week. It also will be, we have PrizePicks and Underdogs over-unders in there. So you'll be able to go in there and we'll be talking about who we think is the best bets of the week and things like that. So definitely get in there.
Yeah. But yeah, again, can't thank you guys enough. Thank you for your support. Let's keep on having fun. It's almost football season. We're so excited for it. But until then, we'll see y'all next time.